Presenting the Leica R8. This rather interesting camera came in recently, and I thought it would be a good chance to show it off to you. This is the somewhat unwieldy Leica R8. I've had this camera for a little while now, and I've been able to play with it to see what makes this camera a diamond in the rough. Ah, the Leica R8. You cannot really mistake it for anything else. It is rather unusual in its design. Some more charitable people might say unique. In case you didn't know, the JCH 10-year anniversary gear is actually limited. So you might want to get some before there's none left. In case, you might want to get some while it's still hot. When it was released at Photokina, remember that? In 1996, it was famously dubbed the Hunchback of Solms, thanks to its looks. But despite being thoroughly ribbed by the press, they couldn't escape its stellar capabilities. Though, interestingly, there was no autofocus. And that segues perfectly for a JCH historical tidbit. Did you know that Leica invented the autofocus? Yes, that's right, some clever boffins at Leica back in the 1960s patented autofocus technologies and then promptly pulled a Kodak and decided nobody will use them and sold them off to Minolta, which I'm sure never came to bite them back on the bratwurst at all. This was Leica's first proper SLR of their own since the Leica Flex, and it shows. It was a radical departure from everything they'd done before. The top plate was supposedly designed to hark back to the smooth top plate of the M cameras. Designed by Manfred Mainzer and his team, the camera is unlike any SLR before or since. It is bulbous and has that focus on the sweetest of 90s buzzwords. Ergonomics. So, let's get technical, let's get technical. One of the things that you'll first notice about the camera is the rather unusual design of the body. It's a pretty hefty beast, and that is because the prism is integrated into the shape of the body, which makes it a big, hefty, solid camera, so you really know that you've got it in your hands. You're not going to forget that you're carrying around one of these things. In fact, you're definitely going to have to make sure you make use of these strap lugs. But despite its rather unusual looks, it is actually a very, very clever piece of design. This camera, as you can see, fits perfectly into the hand. Everything is within reach. Everything is easy to find without you having to think too much about it. Your fingers automatically look for the parts and look for the places where you need. You become one with the camera. See, remember that buzzword ergonomics? Well, that's it's ergonomics in action right there. The shutter dial is big and very satisfying to use. The shutter itself is a Copal vertical metal leaf, and it has a very impressive range of 32 right up to 8,000 in program mode. It also has a 1/250th flash sync and bulb mode too, marking it right up there with the great cameras of its age. But underneath the advanced lever is one of my favourite little additions to this camera, one of my favourite functions, which I think is just beautifully placed as well, and that's the multiple exposure function. So you can shoot as many multiple exposures as you like just by switching that button, which is great for really talented people who know how to do those sort of things, unlike myself, who is completely useless at it. Thanks to the rather chonky dimensions on this camera, the finder is wonderful. It's really bright, really clear, really well laid out, has a 93% coverage, which is fantastic. So you can see everything really legibly within the finder, which is great especially for somebody like four eyes like myself. Also, there's a pretty cool feature that there's a diopter built into the finder. So if you are blind like me, you can use it without the glasses, which makes a huge difference, and it's you don't have to go and find and try and source little extra diopter bits, and that's very cool. The meter on this camera is a real marvel. It has 3 easily switchable modes which are found underneath the shutter speed dial. Very easy to use. It goes from EV4 to EV2, which has you covered for just about any situation. Now, it uses a very clever thing called a parabolic pattern Fresnel submirror. I don't really know what that is, but I would hope that somebody would enlighten us in the comments. The camera has multiple modes, all easily accessible from the dial on the top. You've got manual, aperture priority, program mode, flash. So it's very easy to use, especially if you put it into the program mode. You can just fire and forget, which makes it a deceptively easy camera to use, especially when you consider it's 20 years old. I've been using this camera for a few months now, and I would consider this as one of the most capable cameras in my collection, and it's a real joy to use. It's got this moniker that has been given to it for being ugly, but I actually think this camera is seriously cool. I've used it a lot. I've learnt a lot about it. It's been so much fun that I've actually decided that I might even sell one of my crappier kidneys to fund a new lens for it, because the glass is so damned expensive. But yeah, it is a really great camera, really enjoyable camera to use. Is it going to replace my Nikons? Probably not. I've got a bit of a love affair going on with them, but it is going to be in the starting lineup for sure. So what I say is, just don't be shallow and go for looks. Have a look at this camera, because underneath that hunchback, it's got a heart of gold. As always, it's time to do the pros and cons. So let's have a look. Pros: a seriously capable camera, absolutely incredible lenses on it, and it is a lot of fun to use. Cons: it's pretty hefty, it's not a lightweight camera. Servicing it can be a real problem. In fact, if some things break, you're pretty much out of luck now. And, you know, some people still say it's ugly, but, you know, that's up to them. As always, thank you for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe, sign up, come over to the website Japan Camera Hunter, and keep on shooting film.